Yeah, let's get started because people kind of come in at random times anyway, so we'll just get going. Is that cool with you guys?
Sure.
You guys good? All right. So I put together a little video just so you guys can get to know me a little bit before getting started here, just to give you some background information. And so I hope you enjoy.
Hi, I'm Ivan. Ivan the Intrepid, that is. I was born not too far from here in a place called Boise, Idaho. And not too long ago, about 10 years, I was preparing to graduate from high school just like you. When I graduated, I did what most do and I went to college. After 4.5 years, I walked away from Boise State University with a business degree and a lot of intramural championship t-shirts. But my short delay in graduating wasn't due to my extracurricular endeavors, nay. It was because I had decided to study abroad in Spain and spend the following summer backpacking all over Europe. This experience changed the course of my life, and I returned to the US with the travel bug. And I don't mean the kind that gives you diarrhea. This was the romantic kind, the kind that leaves you smitten with wanderlust. Fortunately for me, after graduation, I was able to find a job that satisfied this need. For 7 months, I got paid to travel the country with a 12,000-pound Idaho potato. Yeah, this was my step into the real world. I only intended to do this one time while I figured out the next step. But it soon became obvious that this just fit my life too darn well to let it go. I realized that it wasn't a step at all, but an incredible opportunity to live the life I wanted. So I spent the next 5 years working seasonal tours while splitting my off time between home and traveling overseas. Since 2012, my overseas wanders have taken me through South America, back to Europe, and to various countries in Asia. Along the way, I decided to start documenting my experiences and offer tips via a blog and YouTube channel. This decision ultimately led me to another great opportunity. I got offered to become the host of an online show called the Fireball Run Adventure Rally. People are always asking me how I do it, how I travel so much, and how I find the jobs that I do. But the way they ask is as if I possess some incredible wealth or magic travel powers. But I don't. I just figured out what is important to me, and I'm creating a life that reflects what I value. Despite what my mom says, I'm not special. I'm also not rich, well, at least not in the monetary way, and I'm certainly not magic. The truth is, I am just like you.
Alright, it's the last time I have to watch that video today. It's weird, it's like Groundhog's Day up here.
Ivan, I just wanted to say something since this is your last session.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. I really am honored to have the invitation. This is tough now. He stole my opening remarks. I was gonna, like literally, I was everything I was gonna say. No, normally I start off by telling you guys how I got here, but as you heard, Chris contacted me while I was in the middle of a backpacking trip through India back in January. He had found my YouTube channel somehow, and he had expressed a lot of passion about presenting you guys with a lot of diverse opportunities and different paths you might be able to take after high school, which is a big step. There's a lot of pressure on you guys right now, and it really resonated with me. I used to be in your guys' shoes, like I said, about 10 years ago or so. I have my 10-year reunion coming up. I can't believe it. And I, being the romantic that I am, I couldn't say no. I wanted to come here and be here with you guys, so I did fly back home halfway around the world last week, and then I spent last couple of days driving over here to be with you guys, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun watching you guys interact, do the workshops, and just seeing how you guys are handling the pressures that are upon you right now. I can relate. I've been there. So I'm excited to be here, and I hope that what I talk with you guys about today resonates. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the format. Slow down, Ivan. I have a slideshow playing here in the background, so if you guys don't like what I'm wearing, don't like what I'm saying, at least you have something else to look at. If you guys aren't fulfilled by that either, feel free to lay your head back, take a nap. I know not everybody wants to be here, and I know it's not going to resonate with everybody, and I don't expect you to put up with that. So I appreciate you guys even making the effort, showing up. If you guys do take any pictures, though, be sure to tag me when you upload them. And if you guys feel like you have questions in the middle that you don't want to save for the end, feel free to ask them. Like this is about interacting with you guys. So I have a message I would like to share, but you know what? If there's a different message that you guys want to know, then I'm happy with going that way. So we'll keep it like a trip. I'm a traveler, so when I show up in a place, I like to kind of hit the ground running and feel things out. And if someone wants to take me down a dark alleyway, we'll go. One of you guys want me to get on the back of your motorcycle and go to your house? That happened to me in India, actually. So, I'm flexible, I'm free, we can keep this fun. So just let me know. The goal here today isn't to try and steer you one way or the other. It's hopefully to give you a perspective on how to live life through a message that I derive from what I learned traveling. I've been really struggling to figure out what to talk to you guys about, because I feel like this is like my big opportunity to make an impact, but in a 50-minute period. There's so many things I want to tell you and talk about, but I've narrowed it down to one thing. Hopefully will be beneficial to you guys in your lives making these next steps. But ultimately, when you leave here, I hope that you guys know and understand that you guys can live a life like this or any other life that you guys choose to create that's important to you and reflects your values and what's going to be fulfilling. So if I don't do that, you can fire me. Or you can go on the website, send me a message and tell me how much I sucked and my shoes are ugly. I don't care. So first, if we're going to talk about travel, I wanted to talk about how I travel. So there are 5 words that I use to describe how I travel. And so far, I've been able to remember all 5, but we'll see how today goes. The first word I use is budget. I'm a budget traveler. So what this means is I forego a lot of little luxuries in order to focus on traveling and experiencing things that are really important to me. And so I will sleep in bus stations and airports. I will take local transportation, cheap budget flights, whatever it takes, because for me, I'm there for the food, the experience, the culture. Those are the things that are important to me. And so I can save money on the other things. So I have more money to stay for longer. I am also a long-term traveler. I don't take a trip unless it's usually a month to 5 months, because it's actually really quite affordable to travel, at least the places I go. It can be very cheap. The most expensive thing is getting there and coming back. It's that flight. So your cost per day really goes up if you're taking 1 week, 2 week trips. And so for me, it's just more, I get more value out of it if I stay longer. I consider myself an adventure traveler. I know adventure gets abused a lot these days. But I like to do like extreme things like bungee jump and river raft, but I also like to travel in a way that invites unpredictability into my life. And that's a quote from Rolf Potts, who wrote the book Vagabonding, which is recommended on a website I have for you guys. But it's about allowing spontaneity and unpredictability to come into your life and let adventure find you. And so that's something I really enjoy. And last, or four, is independent. I'm an independent traveler. So when I go somewhere, instead of hiring like a travel agency to figure out everything for me, I think that's half the fun and half the learning experience is trying to figure out how to do these things for cheap on my own and without this structured itinerary that's going to tell me where I need to be and when. The fifth thing, last but not least, is I am a backpacker. Now this term is kind of nebulous, it's ambiguous, and a lot of people like to hijack it and romanticize it and make it some elitist thing, but for me, all it means is I travel with the backpack. So I brought mine today. This is my 75-liter Baltoro bag, and this is the backpack I used on my first 5-month trip to South America. Now, how many of you think that this is a lot of space for 5 months? How many think that you could fit everything you're going to need the next 5 months of your life inside this backpack? Yeah, maybe. I mean, we're Montana. You guys are used to getting out in the back countries, right? Well, when I first took my trip, this was not a lot of space, and it stressed me out, trying to figure out all the things I was going to need and trying to anticipate everything and be ready for everything. I forgot that you can buy shampoo in other countries and toothpaste and stuff. I didn't need to take 5 months worth. And so I soon realized I had too much stuff. So my next trip, I went down to a 40-liter backpack, which you can tell is quite a big difference. So this is the backpack I used on my 2-month trip to Colombia and Peru. It is also the trip I just used in Asia for 4 months traveling around. Now, having a restriction like this on things isn't something that we're used to in our normal lives. If you think about it, you guys have a bedroom, you have a closet, you have a garage. You can easily acquire new things and just put the old things in storage or kick them under your bed, whatever you want to do. And so it's easy to bring new things in. It's much harder to get rid of things, and you don't have to, so it's just kind of like an automated process. I'm often reminded of this meme I saw on Facebook. It said, number of shirts I have, 50. Number of shirts I wear, 5. Number I'm willing to get rid of, 0. I think we can all probably relate to that. There's a lot of things we don't use, but just in case someday we're going to hold on to them. And so you realize that you don't have to make these hard decisions, and so you accumulate things. You bring things in, and they might not add value. They just add a little bit of excitement right then, but you don't have to make a conscious decision. You don't have to get rid of other things, so there's no opportunity cost. You just bring it in. And so when you get too many things, you put some in your closet. When your closet gets full, you rearrange it and you move some stuff to the garage. Once the garage is full, maybe you pay for a storage unit to store the rest of your things. Now, not only are you have all these things you don't use, but you are paying to store them. I think that this is the point in Fight Club where Tyler Durden, Brad Pitt's character, says, the things you own end up owning you. Instead of having an extra $400,000 a year to spend on things that add value to your life, you're now storing things that you don't even use anymore. And that was an important lesson for me because as I started traveling, as I realized that this is all the space I have, I had to start making decisions that I've never had to make before. Everything that goes into my backpack has to add value, has to have a purpose. And if I'm not thinking about that, I'm going to start throwing in things and I'm going to get overseas and it's not going to help me at all. And so everything has to have value, and it has to have more value than something else that could take its place. And so every time I come home from a trip, I realized that this would transfer over into my own life. I'd be gone for 4 months, and I come home and I'd see all this stuff, and I'm like, what in the world is this? Like I didn't even think about this stuff. I forgot I had this stuff. It obviously isn't adding value to my life. I don't foresee myself using it anytime soon. And so I do these big purges. I just get rid of stuff. Every trip, even this trip, I haven't had time because I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to say to you guys these last few days. But when I go back home, I'll probably do another big purge. And it's just something that it helps me reflect when I get home on what's important and what's valuable. But this doesn't just apply to material possessions. It doesn't just apply to things. This also applies to relationships and choices that you're going to make towards your future. when I come home now, I start to look at the relationships that bring value to my life, that enhance my life, and the ones that stress me out, or are just there because they've always been there. And I don't like to compare people to things, but that's not what I'm trying to do. But one of the other podcasters and authors I listen to is Tim Ferriss. He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week, and he says that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so when you think about that, and you think about how much time you have in a day, it is important who you're spending your time with. You want to be with people who bring you joy, bring you happiness, and who are going to help you reach your goals. And so you start looking at your relationships differently. Also, you start looking at how you want to pursue the rest of your life. All the decisions I make now are a lot more deliberate. I'm not so passive in just accepting the norm and accepting what's expected. I'm like, I can check and see if that sits with me, if that's something that I value. And so I have changed the way that I navigate life. So I'll give you guys an example. Before I started traveling, we'll go back to high school, college days. When I was in high school, I graduated with a 4.1 GPA. I got A's all through high school. I took some AP classes, and all but one class I had A's in. It was a stupid AP biology class. I signed up for it at Mountain View High School because I knew the teacher. He was a football coach. It was super easy, and it was going to be an easy grade for college credit. Unfortunately, I transferred 3 weeks in the year to Centennial High School. Some football, politics, things that don't matter to me anymore. But when I transferred, the teacher over there was much harder. It was very difficult, and it's everything I could do to hold on to a C, which luckily counted as a B, but it was still a blemish on this perfect record that I had imagined for myself. So then I graduated with a 4.1 GPA, went on to college, went to the College of Business and Economics at Boise State University. And same kind of thing, I went through school, I graduated with a 3.986. They teach you rounding in math, but you learn really quickly. They don't round your grades up. And so it was because I got 2 A's, A minuses in Spain, it affected my GPA, and it was a little bit of a blemish, but I still graduated summa cum laude from Boise State's business program. And when I tell people that, when my family talks about it, when my friends think about it, everyone thinks, wow, that Ivan, he's the hard worker, smart guy, right? I have a different view on it now. I used to think that too, but when I look back at my high school, my college career, I see a slacker. School, I was fortunate that school came easy to me, and I could do the bare minimum and still get A's, and it's not something I'm proud of. I didn't push myself. I coasted. I took the safe routes, as exemplified with the AP class. I didn't stick in there and be like, no, I'm gonna do the best I can in this class and finish out the next semester. I said, no, get me out of here, tap. I want to go to an easy class because I don't want to risk my GPA on actually learning something or pushing myself. And that transferred over into college too. There were some classes I wanted to take. I wanted to learn Spanish. I wanted to take some advanced Spanish classes. I wanted to take a physics class because I thought physics might be interesting. And I didn't take those classes because I didn't know if I could get the grade that I wanted and that was expected. I coasted because what was measured was grades. I needed to get a good grade in high school to go to college. I needed to get a good grade in college so I could get a good job, and so on and so forth. And I never thought about it. I did it. I knew how to do it. I was good at taking tests. I knew how to work the teachers. I knew I had the system down pat where I didn't have to challenge myself. I just coasted. And so the grade says otherwise, but I know in my heart that I was quite lazy. As you can probably see by all the intramural shirts, I had lots of free time. But now I try to lead my life a little bit differently. I try to ask hard questions. I try to check in with myself because I know myself a lot better now, and I know what I want out of life. And I know that even though something's expected, so something's traditional, doesn't mean that I have to conform to it. And so now, after I traveled a lot, I realized that travel is something that I'm passionate about and something that I want in my life. And so I started creating a life that would allow that. I found the job with the potato truck. And I was only going to do it 1 year, but I realized I could save up. I was getting paid to travel. It wasn't on my own terms. I was getting paid to travel. And then also, in the off time, I could go and travel more. So I kept with it. I kept doing it, and I was kind of waiting for my next plan. Along the way, I decided that I wanted to try and make my travel and self-sustainable. So I started looking at people who were doing what I wanted to do, travel bloggers and YouTubers. And I started to see what they were doing. They had these huge followings. And I was like, that's great. Then once you have a following, you can leverage it, and you can make it more sustainable. And so I started creating. Like, I didn't know anything about creating a blog or a YouTube channel, but I just started doing it. I learned online. I figured things out as I went, and I just started emulating what I wanted to be. And then as I was continuing on that path, I realized travel's my thing right now, but it's ultimately not what I'm seeking. What I'm seeking is time, is freedom, is choice. I want to have control of my life so I can continue to work on the things I want. I can travel when I want. I can not travel when I want. I can work on this project, work on that project, and not be a slave to a job that I have to work in order to make money, to pay bills for things that are sitting in a storage and I don't even know what they are. So those are decisions I made after asking some hard questions and after doing some soul searching. And so now that's the life I am trying to create. I haven't got it down yet, but I'm working on it. I have found some odd gigs that work for me that can give me a lot of flexibility. I'm going home to build a tiny house this year. And so yeah, I'm one of those weird tiny house people that you read about. But ultimately, how I see it is I don't need a big house that I'm not going to be in. I like being outside anyways. I need a place to sleep, shower, store my things. But ultimately, if I can build a place and be debt-free, then I don't have to work a job I don't want in order to pay a mortgage. I can actually have the time and freedom to work on the projects I want. I just need a little bit of income to cover my basic expenses. So that's the life I'm trying to create now because that's what I value. So at the end of the day, if you live deliberately, you can take actionable steps to create the life you want. That's it. Just live deliberately. You guys got that? You guys understand live deliberately? You guys ready to go out of here, out of this room, and grab life by the horns and create the life you want? Right? Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Right? Slow down, guys. We're not there yet. Okay, there's still one more piece of this puzzle. So I like the enthusiasm. Let's bring it back a little bit, okay? Before you can just run out here and do this, you need to know a little bit about yourself. You need an opportunity of self-discovery. I think of it as being caught in an avalanche, which I hope none of you ever are. But if you ever found yourself engulfed in snow, you'd probably realize that you know what to do. So I just told you, you should live deliberately. You should take action, take control of your life. You know you need to dig out of the avalanche in the same way. But until you orient yourself, until you figure out which way is up, you could start digging. You could be digging down. You could be digging deeper. You could be digging sideways. You could never get out of there. So you need to know which direction to go. And the only way you're going to do that is by learning about yourself. It's by finding yourself, having a period of self-discovery. So I want to ask you guys, what are some characteristics you would use to describe yourselves right now? Or even things that other people use to describe you. What do other people think of you? What do you think of yourself? Who are you? It can just be like one word, adjectives. I will call on people if... Creative, okay.
Adventurous.
Adventurous. I saw a hand over here.
No.
Is that you?
No, we didn't.
You can share anyways. So what's a word that you'd use to describe yourself? Don't be shy.
I don't know.
Own it.
Feministic.
Feministic, okay. We got one. That's what she thinks of you. Feministic.
I don't know her, but I was just.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just assume. Anybody else? What's a word you'd use to describe yourself? Anybody? Come on. Caring. Okay. These are all good characteristics. There's a lot of good people in here. That's great. I like being in good company. When I was your age, I probably would have used athletic, smart. I would have said caring. I would have said I was empathetic, or if I knew what that word was back then, I don't know. But this was this person I thought I was. This was the statue I had carved. This is who I thought I was based on what other people thought, what other people saw, my friends, family, my community. I was in this bubble, and I had created this statue. This was me. This was Ivan. And I had this idea, this set idea, but I had never tested it. Like, I had never broken out of this bubble to find out if this is really who I am, or is this just who I think I am? Is this who I am now, or is this who I'm always going to be? I had no idea about any of these questions. But when I started to travel, when you go on a trip overseas, you start to realize that all of these layers, all these things you think you are, all these assumptions, all these perspectives that people have of you, they're gone. You're going somewhere where nobody knows you, and you're going to an environment that you've never been in. You're going to face things you've never experienced before. So now you don't have your routines, your safety nets, your peer groups. You don't have all this to fall back on, to hide behind. You don't have this mask. You get to, one, create yourself, and two, discover if the person that you've been saying you were all that time is true. And you're going to find out really quickly. I remember I realized this when I was on my way to Spain. I was sitting on the plane. I had just said goodbye to my parents. I knew I wasn't going to see them again for another 6 months. And so I was feeling really nostalgic, and I was like thinking about a lot of things. And I was sitting there looking out the window, and there's rain falling on the tarmac, and just realizing that I could be anybody I wanted when I get to Spain. I could tell these people anything about myself when I got there, and that's what they would think until they checked my Facebook page. But that realization also made me realize that I also was going to find out if these things I thought I was and this person I was going to project to these people was real or not. And so it was a really vulnerable, intimate opportunity to find out if what I thought was real. And that's why I love travel. That's why I'm passionate about it, especially earlier in your life. I think it's a huge catalyst for self-discovery. Travel has been the best form of education for me. And while I've learned a lot about the world, I've learned even more about myself. And that's why I think and I encourage that you guys should travel now, or when you can, or as soon as possible, because just like the education you've gotten at the beginning of your life, you got it now so that you can use it the rest of your life, so you can be a productive member of society the rest of your life. So if travel is viewed the same way, it's not just like, I'm not talking about vacation, I'm not talking about sitting on a beach, I'm talking about going and interacting with other cultures, about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, about finding out who you are, then I think that you should do it now to become the best person you can, so that you can have those characteristics, those qualities moving forward. Because that's going to affect everything you decide in life. It's going to affect everybody you interact with. And I think it's important that we realize that it's okay to be a little selfish these next few years. Now, I use the word selfish because I can't think of a better word, but I don't mean it in like a negative way. How many of you guys have flown on an airplane before? Okay. You know, like the lady comes on and she talks about all the like safety tips and what you should do in case of emergency. You probably tune that out, right? I'm usually passed out with my headphones in and up against the window by then. But I have looked at the emergency card. Have you guys ever taken a look at that? Now it says on there, in case of an emergency and the oxygen masks drop and you have a child with you, what should you do?
Put it on yourself.
You put it on yourself first. Because if you pass out before you get on the child, then you're both passed out and you don't help anybody. It's one of the rules you learn too if you ever take a first responders course. It's to respond to emergency situations. Like if there's like a house and you see people passed out inside, you don't just run in like James Bond and just kick down the door and put yourself in danger, because if you pass out too, then you're no help to anybody. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of those around you. And that's why self-discovery is so important. And I think it's really empowering to put yourself out of your comfort zone in a new environment and learn who you are. Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter what the experience is, you're going to learn something. That's for sure. I want to give an example from my time in Spain. So when I went to Spain, I went through a program who kind of organized everything for me. You just give them like $11,000, $12,000, right? And then they contact the college for you. They help you with in-country orientation. They give you a network, a support group. They take you on excursions. They help you find a host family who gives you 3 meals a day. It's like very structured. It's very nice, and it's a very good step if you have a lot of fear, anxiety about taking that step overseas. But what I learned when I got there is that there was another way. So when I went, I was 22 years old. I was supposed to graduate college that semester, but so I was ultimately the oldest person in my program and probably the oldest person studying abroad, which is never the cool thing to be. especially I was with a bunch of East Coast kids, and they're all like, "Why aren't you graduated? What are you doing here?" But there were some German girls in my program who had taken a different course. So they were younger than me. They were girls. They came from Germany. They showed up in the country. They contacted the university themselves. They paid the tuition directly to the university, which was like, I think, $1,400. I paid like $12,000 for this whole program. And they stayed in a hostel for a week while they tried to find a place to live. And you think 6 German girls, they knew each other, they'd all just get a place together and live together and speak German and go on their merry, happy ways. But no, they knew what they wanted to get out of this experience. And they knew that would be the easy thing to do, and they knew that they were aware enough that they wouldn't get that experience if they took that path. So what they did is they all went different ways. They all found their own roommates. They spoke no Spanish, but they navigated this system, found roommates who didn't speak any English or any German, and they lived with an immersive experience, and they came out speaking much better Spanish than me. They understood the Spanish culture much better than me. And ultimately, like, while I don't regret my experience, because I made a lot of amazing friends and I had a great time, the experience that I wanted out of it before I left home was the experience that they had. And so I was thinking, I was like, man, like how were they so confident and so I feel like they were able to do that on their own and just take off like that? Is it just a German thing? Are Germans just weird and they just aren't afraid of anything? It's kind of true. No, it was actually the fact that they had taken what's called a gap year. A lot of European countries actually encourage their students. It's actually like an active thing where they tell you, take a break between high school and college and go out there and experience the world, find yourself, and figure out what path you want to take in life. And so it's actually actively encouraged by the governments for people to do that. And what a lot of people don't realize, because it's not encouraged here, what we don't know is that there's a lot of opportunities and structures out there for that. A lot of these girls had gone off to New Zealand, Australia, Ireland, and they did these working holidays. And there's actually programs for this. If you guys wanted to, you could apply for a working holiday visa for New Zealand or Australia and be able to go and work and travel over there for a whole year. And Australia, right now, the minimum wage, I think, starts off around $16 an hour. But everyone I've talked to has made at least $20 to $25 an hour while they're working over there. Granted, things are more expensive, I will say that, but it's plenty of money to live off of, save off of, and support yourself while you're there. So you don't need to like save up all this money before you go. And they're easy countries to travel. They all speak English. You probably come back with a cool accent, and you probably ride a surfboard while you're over there, and maybe even fight a kangaroo, which would be awesome. I haven't been, but I have a buddy over there right now, and he's working on it. So you have these opportunities that I wasn't aware of, and I realized it was really obvious the effect that it had on these girls. It gave them so much confidence. It gave them such a determination to go after the things that were important to them and to get the experience that they want. Like, they took a very active approach to their study abroad, and I was like, I don't want to figure this out. Like, take this. I'll pay for it. And I think the value that they got out of it was a lot greater than the value that I got out of it. And while I'm encouraging travel and I'm encouraging these things, I don't want you guys to think that the message here is don't do this or do this. I don't want you guys running home today and telling your parents, yeah, some hippie guy in a funny outfit told me I don't have to go to college. I don't have to go into the workforce, because that's not the message. It's not the message at all. What I'm hoping is that if you guys choose not to travel, you can learn these characteristics. You can learn about yourself in other ways. I just think travel is a huge catalyst, and it's a great opportunity while you're young, or any point in your life. But it's often easier while you're young and before you have kids and a wife or husband or anything like that. But I'm hoping that by living deliberately, if you guys want to go to college, you go to college, but don't go because it's what's expected. Don't go because that's just what people do next. Go because you see the value in a college education, and you see the value in a degree that's going to help you get to this goal up here. Don't take a job at the bank because it's safe, it's secure, it's got advancement opportunity, it's got good benefits. Take it because you're interested in finance, and you think it's a great way to learn about the industry and get your foot in the door so that you can, get whatever you want out of the industry, out of that experience. So I don't want you to think I'm telling you to do one thing or another. I'm just hoping to give you a perspective on how to look at the same situations you've been looking at. And I think that self-discovery and being a little selfish the next few years will help you with that. But even if it doesn't resonate with you right now, maybe in 1 or 2 years you'll remember this outfit and you'll think back to that lesson, and hopefully it'll give you the encouragement to realize that you can live a life like that or any other one that you decide. There's a lot of great paths out there, as you saw at the career fair yesterday, and like you've probably heard in workshops here. There's a lot of amazing opportunities. But if you don't see one that fits for you right now, don't be afraid to make your own. And that's what I did. I'm making my own. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I always have the ability to fall back on the existing system. It's much easier to go with the flow. It's much easier to do what's expected and just go along with plans as is. It's much harder to try and make your own path. But I encourage you that even just trying it, even just going out there and doing it will be very rewarding, and it'll be a great learning experience. And when you do come back to whatever you come back to, if it's not right for you, you'll come back and you'll feel a lot better about it because you'll know that you did try that and it wasn't what you thought it was. And so by doing that, you can take an entrepreneurial stance to your life, and you can create it. There's so many resources, so many opportunities out there for you. And if you guys are interested more in what they could be, especially on the travel end, I've actually created a website that's about 95% done. I'll probably have it done the next day or two for you, but I have it printed on some cards back there on the table. Please feel free to take them. It's got my social media links. It's got the website. I'll have some resources up that give you practical tips and practical advice on how to take these steps if you want to travel or take a gap year, or there's other opportunities to find jobs or work exchanges. You go work on an organic farm in exchange for room and board in another country if New Zealand and Australia aren't where you want to go, but you don't have the money to support a long-term trip. So a lot of resources. Feel free to reach out to me and contact me if you have more questions. I'm not a counselor, but I can help guide you with practical advice on where to find the resources you need to take the steps that you want. So that's all I've got for you guys. I'll open it up to questions now. You can ask me anything about what I said, what you saw, or anything in between. So
Have you ever gone to Ireland?
I have been to Ireland. So that was the first country I went to on my European trip after studying in Spain, and went to Dublin, went over to Galway, then went down to Cork, and then went back to England. So.
Have you went to the castle where the Flying Stone is?
No, I didn't. So I had some friends that were actually over there at the same time, and they went and they leaned back and kissed the stone, which is supposed to bring good luck or something like that. But I think it was kind of an expensive requirement, and I didn't want to catch any cooties from the rock, I guess. But no, I missed out on that. But for me, the Ireland experience I was looking for was just like seeing that like notorious pub life with like the live music and seeing the rolling green countrysides and seeing the Cliffs of Moher. Like that was the Ireland I envisioned, and I found my Ireland in a place called Kinsale outside of Cork. That was my favorite place I went to when I was there.
So you're like a risky and adventurous guy. What's one of like your worst experiences taking risks?
Worst experiences taking risks. That's a great question. It's one that I don't feel like I have the humility to answer honestly, because I feel like I'm very adaptive and I take things in stride, and like bad things happen and I find a way to laugh at them. It's like my coping mechanism. So a lot of times bad things don't seem so bad to me. I'm trying to think. I'll just have to go with something easy that happened to me in this last trip. I went to Sri Lanka. I took 3 weeks to go to Sri Lanka, which is an island just south of India. And we rented a tuk-tuk and drove around the island, and had a tent, and we just camped out in random spots along the way. And so we were camped out on this beach. And the problem is that there were these dogs. There's a lot of other countries like the dogs just run around and stuff, which has its pros and cons. But sometimes the dogs have their little packs and they like to fight. The beach dogs are very territorial. And so we're camped on this beach, but these dogs decided to have a fight, but on our tent. And so we woke up in the middle of the night and we actually thought these dogs were trying to get into the tent to attack us. And it was just like a really freaky experience. So of course I wake up and I just start kicking. I kick the kick the tent, and all of a sudden the tent just rips across the bottom, and I'm actually borrowing it from the guy who rented us the tuk-tuk, and I'm like,
Oh no.
dang it, immediately. But then the dogs are still fighting, so I realized they weren't trying to get in, or they would have had an easy way in. So I open up the tent, and these dogs are just going at it, and I just remember it was so frustrating because there's two dogs on one, and they're just like tearing at it and stuff, and I want them to stop because it just looked painful, and I had nothing. I had nothing to grab, so I pick up an empty water bottle, and I just like, I'm yelling, and I just throw it at them as hard as I can, which obviously didn't do anything, but they eventually left. And so that was like kind of freaky. But we ended up camping there the next night too. I guess we just didn't learn our lesson. And so we're camped out the next night, and it was like only 10 at night. That one was like 5 in the morning. This one was at 10 at night. They came back, and they had another dog fight in our tent, and they ripped open the front of our tent. And both times it was just like, it was a little bit freaky because you just didn't know. One, it was really hard to go back to sleep after that because you didn't know if they were going to come back. And so every noise, you're like, is that the dogs? What are they doing out there? And we're trying to sew up the tent. So that was like one of those situations where it wasn't ideal. Looking back now, like everything was fine. But at the time, it was like super stressful because, one, it was destroying the tent that we were borrowing. And two, you just didn't know if you were going to get caught in this dog fight and end up losing a finger or something. So that's like a easy one I can recall. Yeah?
Where was your favorite place you've ever been to?
Favorite place I've ever been to. That's always I'm really bad with favorites, and I think maybe it's because I haven't taken enough time to reflect. But it depends on, like, we're talking culture, food, natural beauty. What do you want to go with? Culture. All of them. So culture. Up until this last trip was Morocco and Istanbul. I mean, it was really cool because they're Islamic countries, and like 99%, and so like the culture, the environment is just extremely different. I loved Europe, but for me, what's exciting is going to places that are completely different. Everything is stimulating. Everything is exciting. And while I can walk down the street in Germany and not talk to anybody, you can't walk down the street of Morocco or Istanbul or India without someone wanting to take a picture with you, wanting you to come to their restaurant, wanting to sell you something, want to know where you're from. And so you're just it's just so much energy. There's so much energy, such vibrant cultures that I found those extremely stimulating culturally. Natural beauty is tough because there's a lot of amazing places, but ones that stand out are Croatia, the Dalmatian coast, Plitvice National Park. You probably saw some pictures of those pop up on the screen. And Brazil's a big country, and I loved the Amazon, and there's a few other places there that, I mean, it's got coastline, it's got mountains, beaches, but there's a lot of beautiful places in this world. And food, I love Indian food and I love Italian food, so to go with India and Italy on those. Yeah?
How many languages have you learned since you started traveling?
So I am pretty high-level conversational in Spanish, depending on if I'm tired or not, and depending on what type of Spanish it is. But I'm pretty good at Spanish, and I dated a German girl for 3 years, so I learned a little bit of German. Not as much as you'd expect. I wasn't like living over there the whole time, but I spent quite a bit of time and got where I could converse a little bit about basic things with like her mom and stuff. So, and then you end up picking up a lot of a few words from a lot of different languages, and then you forget them a few months after your trip. So that's usually how it goes. But it's fun. Like in India, like you use namaste or for like hello and goodbye. If you say namaste, or you learn a word for thank you in southern India, nani, like when you say these, like people just get so excited because you know like one word in their language. They're like, you speak Hindi, or you speak this language. I'm like, no. I said one word. That's it. Like don't confuse it. But the cultures really appreciate it when you take the time to learn anything about them or their languages and stuff. So it can really make the experience a lot more enriching. Anybody else? Quiet group in here. It's the last one of the day. I know. I understand. All right.
What clothing style was your favorite that you ever been?
Clothing style. I really enjoy this. This is a kurta. I bought this outfit in India, Mumbai, for a wedding. Usually they have a full-length kurta that you go past the knee. I got the medium because I wanted something that I could at least kind of wear back home and not be too weird.
But I really liked the Rajasthani style that they had there. But there's you find it's hard to find a lot of authenticity in cultures, and I say that. I mean, the cultures are authentic, but everything is becoming very homogenized. A lot of people dress like Westerners, so you see them in T-shirts and jeans. Like, most people in India don't walk around like this. The women wear saris, which I think are really beautiful and traditional, but the men a lot of them dress normal, except for in the South India where they wear like mundus, which is kind of like a sarong and stuff. But you realize a lot of people like from social media, from movies, stuff like that. Like the culture is changing to adopt a lot of Western practices and stuff like that, which is another reason why I love traveling now, because it changes so much that before you know it, like the world could be just one same place, and so it's fun to see these traditions and these cultures now while they're still somewhat intact and stuff. So, yep.
I'm sorry, I'm a student getting up here speech.
That's okay.
I wanted to ask if you did ever been in countries in Asia.
Yeah, so I just got back from a 4-month backpacking trip where I went to India. I spent about 3 months in India, 3 weeks in Sri Lanka, and then I laid over in Tokyo on my way home for 6 days. But then before that, I'd been to Thailand, so I spent about 3 weeks in Thailand. I really wanted to do a big Southeast Asia trip. India itself was just like its own world. It was just too big to experience in one trip. So I just stayed there, decided to focus on that instead of just trying to like check off countries. But I really want to go back and do a big Southeast Asia backpacking trip now because there's a lot of incredible places over there. And I love the food. And it's cheap. Yeah.
Is there any new countries that you want to go to?
Yeah, so I have this, the more I travel, you'd think that I'd just be checking things off, but the more I travel, the longer my list gets, because I learn about more places. I hear about other people's experiences. There's just so many places. There's really nowhere I don't want to go. I just have like a priority of like what is more interesting to me right now. And so Southeast Asia is really high. I'd love to do a big overland trip throughout Africa. I think that those are two of the places that are calling me out right now. Because I think that they'd be better to do now. And some of the other countries that are a little bit easier, like to travel, like Australia, New Zealand, I would like to do later because you can do that when you're older and stuff too. Anyone else? If you have another one too, I'll take it. I like the question game. Give me some hard ones. Anybody?
What's your opinion on female safety?
That is a great question and one that often comes up. So, while I am not a female, I have traveled with 2 different females long-term overseas, and it's tough because it's taught me a lot about my own privilege. India really taught me about my own privilege as a male. In India, like it's just culturally, like the sexes are just very divided, and so like we're traveling together and stuff, and while they know it's different, like a lot of times, like males would only talk to me, or I wouldn't even eat. She'd order something to eat, and they'd bring me the check, and so like she just felt excluded a lot of the time. It's you anytime you travel, no matter if you're male or female, you have to take certain precautions. You got to be smart. Just like if you're traveling in the Bronx in New York City or in Compton in LA, you have to, you wouldn't go to those places at night. You have to have the same awareness. But as a female, there are obviously other precautions you have to take. That being said, I am not surprised anymore, but whether I've been in Colombia, India, just anywhere, there's always female travelers traveling by themselves. And you do have to, there's a lot of blog posts out there that I'll link to for female traveling that have a lot of advice for if you're planning on traveling by yourself. But what I've learned, and one of the greatest lessons I think there is from traveling, is realizing that the world's not this big scary place. Like, you have to be careful, but 99% of the people in this world have the best intentions and will take care of you. And so an example, the girl I was traveling with, I was dating at the time in India, she was taking a train trip by herself, and it was a night train. So she's going to arrive in this city that's not touristy, so there's not like a lot of tourist infrastructure, by herself.
But these people on the train saw her, and like they love foreigners. She's blonde, blue eyes, which is very exotic over there. And so this family, these came over, and it was like three married couples, and like an older couple that I think was like the parents. And they saw her, and they were like excited, and they're like, "What are you doing by yourself? Come sit with us." When she got to the destination, they're like, no, we will. They walked 10 minutes with her to her hotel so that she wouldn't be alone by herself. And like that happens all the time. And when you're out there traveling, I love solo travel. I think that it's the most pure kind. You're just completely free to, you don't have to compromise on what someone else wants to do, where they want to eat. And you're never really by yourself. There's always other travelers out there in these networks and stuff. There's always a tourist trail, so you can always find people to travel with. You can find people to help you, and if you just ask for help, if you learn that vulnerability, like people are always willing to help you and help take care of you and stuff. So there are extra precautions, obviously, but it's not something that should ever stop you by any means. And there's a lot of female travelers that will tell you the exact same thing. So it's easy for me to say it, but there are a lot of women out there doing it themselves. So. Anything else? I saw movement. All right, well, you guys, if there's no other questions, then I guess it's time to take a group selfie.